Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time we're going to be taking a look through another 100 or so vintage wartime Penguin books. It's been a while since I've done some, so I'm very much looking forward to getting stuck into these today. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Brilliant then, so we start off with this one, which is Penguin number 291 in their main series. And to put this one in date perspective, 1940, there we are. So I'm going to need to be really careful with these because they are by far, this particular run and probably the next video or two as well, these are amongst the most valuable Penguins that I own and are the most valuable ones that they published, valuable today that is. The reason being is because they were published during the war, paper rationing started to bite, and the quality of the actual printing very much declined. We've got lots of collectible titles in this little run, and we'll see these as we go along. And obviously Britain was suffering with the Blitz from the Russian aerial attacks. So I've never really been through these bit by bit, one by one, ever. But a lot of them have been done when I've got them. So if it's been a particularly valuable one, which I've found, I have already sort of done this process. I got it as good as I possibly can, and then I've popped it already into a comic bag. So I do actually have some of these already bagged. So I'm not going to debag them just for the sake of this video, because they're already as good as I'm going to be able to make them. But these are all first Penguin editions, and particularly nice stroke valuable ones we'll show as we go along, but I need to be very careful with these. There won't be any polishing at all. This one needs some gluing. The polishing side of this particular video is not going to happen, and that's simply because the books don't need polishing. They can't be polished, you know, they've got matte covers. So I just put a line of glue along there. But this was a tricky time for Penguin because prior to the war, they'd obviously had massive success. Their Penguin specials, which had come out a few years prior, had massive print runs, like 250,000. So they were better than most publishers in the fact that they were given a very generous allowance from the War Ministry to allow them to print. You know, they had more paper to play with, better than most other publishers of the period. So they weren't that hard done by, shall we say, but they did still suffer. And as war goes on, the books around 1943, 1944 are amongst the very hardest ones to find in nice condition. This is still 1940s, so generally speaking, things aren't as bad as they get. This is one of those very early crossword puzzle books. Always like to find these, and they are amongst the very scarcest early Penguins, as you can imagine. Whereas something like this is actually fairly common. You can pick this one up for, you know, like a £5 or something like that. A lot of it is very much dependent on the subject. Nice wartime period adverts start to creep in now. Very much at the time that they were made. This is an absolute favourite of mine, very expensive. This is a £50 Penguin now, this particular one. In Burmese Days, which comes a bit later, is even more expensive. But yeah, you can easily get £50 for this. It's my all-time favourite George Orwell, believe it or not. I rate this higher than Animal Farm, and I rate it better than 1984. It's just, there's something about this particular book that just resonates with me, and I just love it to death. So if you've never ever read it, you see it's a really thin one. But if you've never read Down and Out in Paris and London, there's a lovely Penguin Modern Classics edition to get your teeth stuck into with some nice notes and things. And yeah, it's very well, it's recommended. I did once toy with the idea of trying to get the hardback first of it, but the cheapest copy I could find online was £3,000, so I thought I'd give that a miss. Sadly, George Orwell first editions are rather expensive, but it's definitely possible in Penguin first edition, but even those are quite pricey. But you know, with George Orwell, it's almost like a seal of approval. It's a guarantee of quality. I must say, so far, I'm quite pleased with what I'm seeing. They're pretty good. I said some of them I've had for a long time, like this one, Pygmalion. This is one that I really should upgrade. So when I edit this, I'll add this to my upgrade list because it's got a faded spine. And this is a really common book. So I had a big print run. So there's no reason at all for me to have like a substandard faded spine copy. Now, there's a little, it's got like an A7 or something in the corner here. So I'm just using the next book as a little table, so I don't need to bend the cover all the way back. But I've been extra careful with these because they're not that robust compared to books that came a bit, later, post 1945 onwards. The books are much more back to what they used to be. But prior to that, they're not. So I can see also this one's got it's come away actually on the spine there. So I need to just, even though it's not a copy I'm long term going to keep, I still want it looking as good as possible. So I'm just going to slide some glue down the spine there just to keep this intact. I'm not going to need a lot, but I am going to need some. So I'm just going to put a blob in and slide it along like so. As I said, we're not going to be polishing today, so it's worth taking the time to get these looking absolutely as good as possible, and also giving them quite a careful brushing, because some of these have never ever been brushed, and I've had them a long time, so they're going to really benefit from having a brush. I'm hoping to really lighten them up a bit as we work our way through the collection. There we are. I think that's all we can reasonably get in there. But yeah, very common. I could have picked this one up multiple times over the years, so I don't think I'll have any issue picking another one of those ones up. But it was worth doing that. There's the first of many crime books we'll see today. Now, the thing is with Penguin Crime, I am just happy to have a copy. So this one here is not particularly great condition. It is on my list to upgrade. It's got a little ATP on the front. It is on my list to upgrade. But if I don't come across another copy, I'm honestly not going to worry, because at least it's one that I've got. It's done. It's out the way. It's another first edition. And I do only need 6 first edition Penguins to have the first 1,000 complete now, which isn't bad, is it? So, but it's a bit of a lifetime journey. Yeah, it's got a bit of a loose cover there, but that's fine. It is still attached. And as I said, it's on my little upgrade list, so when I next get some comic bags, I shall get that one bagged up. Now this one is in a bag. This is number 302. This was one of the first early Penguin Crimes that I ever got when I first started collecting Penguin, and I got it at a boot sale. I thought, oh, that's quite nice. That's quite an early one. And no idea that it was so sort of expensive. These all regularly sell for £30 to £50 a pop, these particular batch that we're looking at here. And this one actually goes for slightly more. The Eyes of Max Carados. This is 303. As I said, this has already been cleaned and is bagged, so I don't need to do anything with this one. And then we've got 304, which is another fairly expensive one. This is probably closer to £75, and this is Half-Mast Murder. So a few nice little crime ones there. Now we've got the first 2 volumes of Penguin New Writing. Now this is Penguin 305, and they're both numbered 305. So there was a slight mistake in the numbering back then. And that's just a sign of how things were a little bit crazy during the war. This has got the tiniest remnants of an old 30 pence or something similar in the corner there. So we'll gently, as gently can be, rub that out like so. We'll just do a few more, and then we better get this first lot sort of brushed down. So this is New Writing Book 2. I said still, look at that, still got the same number, but this one, the glue's dried out. That's created, it's just run away there. Look at that. That's okay. That's an easy fix. You've had to do this a few times in these videos, so give myself a plenty edge here of glue. Don't want to skimp on this part of it. You want it to be glued down properly, or else it's just going to come away again, isn't it? We want this to be, you know, pretty permanent seal. There we are. Now make sure you're getting it on the right way, which I am. Just slide it into place. Great series. It's the Penguin New Writings. After the first two, so 1 and 2 that we've just seen, the series then gets its own like numbering. So they were released as standalone, and they weren't part of the main series, which is what we're looking at right here. So I think we'll get these into a few shortish piles, like so. And we'll give these first ones, you see how dirty these are. I'm really hoping that this is going to improve these, because they've never ever been done. But potentially they've been in my collection for 3.5 decades. And they're really going to benefit from having a clean. Obviously some of these I bought from dealers over the years, and you know, if you're a book dealer, you've got no chance or no time really to do this to all your stock. Yeah, it's made a big difference on those, you know. That's lighten that up. It's incredible, isn't it? And these will look so much better on the shelf. Although, to be honest, they look great. You know, look at that one; it's almost black. That's the George Orwell, you know. So, be interesting to see if that one lightens up. Yeah. Definitely got it a bit lighter. Look at that. Trying to get this rubbing in picture. Just the two there that needed doing. It's always the top edges, isn't it? Lovely. Just change the angle slightly, so hopefully we can get a little bit more in. 306. That's what my wife thinks of these books. Old junk. Nah, she doesn't really. Oh, this is another one. Look at that. Spine's almost come off as I've opened it. That's going to need re-gluing, isn't it? Okay. It's not away completely though, so that's good. Although it does make it slightly harder to get the glue in, but we can manage. So I'm just going to roll it back here. quite a messy old process, but we've seen this time and time again with old books, and the glue, it just ages. And it may be because for years, at some point that was stored in a hot environment, and it's created the glue to just dry out over time. It's interesting, some of these have still got little dust wrapper flaps, not many, but some of them. It's all right. This is quite a scarce travel one, Eastern Flights. The name Alan Bott, it may be familiar to some of you. Alan Bott went on to create Pan Books, which was a huge Penguin competitor. So there you go. But he was also a decorated wartime hero. And this was the Penguin edition of it. My Journey to Lhasa. A big thick one for the time. There's a little bit of pen in the inside, pencil rather, in the inside cover, which is there. So I'm trying to be super careful because it's pulling it a little bit, but I want to get that pencil out. There we are. Got it. Apart from that, it was all right. Here's a bona fide classic, Howard's End. First Penguin of that one. Another quite expensive one when you find it. Untouchable. Little 30p inside here. That's what we like to see. Scarce penguins with cheap prices in. Warms your heart. Means I probably got it cheap. This one's bagged. It's a scarce crime one. Top Story Murder. 3 for 3. Nice copy of that one by the look of it as well. Very nice indeed. As is this one. Along This Way. A biography one. Lovely. This is nice. This is another scarce travel, The Land of the Blue Poppy. Yep, that's all right. You can see the really fragile paper. Now this one, just looking at the bottom of the spine. Yeah, look at that. I'm just going to pop a tiny slither of glue in there so that that doesn't catch. Since we're here, and we're going over them with a fine tooth comb. There we are. Not a massive repair, but definitely a worthwhile repair. There we are. Lovely. Next, a couple more bagged ones. Full modern American short stories. And another rare crime, Josephine Bell. Fall Over Cliff. Right, I think we're ready for another little brush down. Give these a little brush. Particularly dirty tops here on these, But then again, they are 80 years old. In fact, 82 years old, a lot of these. So, and they've probably never ever been cleaned like this. So we'll allow them this once. To have a little bit of dirt on. Just one in there that needed a wipe. There we go. Lovely. Okay, another favourite of mine, the two Claudius books. This was I Claudius, and then they did Claudius the God later on. This one's slightly easier to get. Claudius the God is harder. And it came out in 2 volumes. So you got I Claudius Volume 1 and I Claudius Volume 2. The books were quite big, granted, but it's still a slightly strange decision that they published them in 2 volumes. Later on they did re-release it as a single volume, but I guess it was a wartime restriction. This is interesting. This has got no advert on the back, though it has got some writing which we might have a go at. But this is one that's what they call a blank back. So the advertising didn't go on because this may have had a print run of, say, 25,000, and then the advertiser paid for their advert to go on the first, say, 15,000. So consequently, the tail end of the run didn't have any advertising at all. But very, very lightly there, you can sort of see some writing there, and it almost looks as if historically someone's actually tried to get that off, and they've not done too bad a job. So I'm not sure if my soft rubber is going to make any sort of impact on that at all. And it's not really, so I don't really want to continue that. That will just be, that is going to be as good as it's going to get. And we'll leave it at that. This is a rare one, rare in high grade. Anyway, Mr. Norris Changes Trains. Scarce little book, quite expensive when you find it. Generally goes for, well, 35 to 45 pounds, something like that. That one, that needs to be in a bag, really. All of these are scarce now going forward. Even if they're common titles, they're just rare. I count myself as being very lucky that I've picked a lot up over the years, either out in the wild or been lucky with dealers' catalogues and got in early. But if you ever come across penguins from this period, and they are first penguin editions, and you can always tell with the copyright page on the inside, it tells you when it was first published as a penguin. And if it says first published like that, 1941, and it doesn't have any subsequent reprints, you know you've got a first edition. And you've probably got something that might be quite valuable, depending on the title, you know. As you can see, I'm handling these really, really carefully. It's sort of the only way. Cactus. So this little run's not needed a lot of work, has it? This one's a little bit worse for wear, a little bit missing from the bottom corner there and the top, but as I said, I'm not going to worry. I'm happy to have this. I'm not going to put it on any sort of upgrade list at all, because I'm often just happy to have them. So here's one where I've got two. Penguin Herodotus. And this one's with a blank back and with an advertising back. So this goes back to just what I was telling you just now about an advertiser, in this case GIF, possibly paid to be on, say, 15 or 20,000 copies. And then when that run was hit at the printing presses, they just did the rest of the run with a blank back. It's a peculiarity. It didn't last that long. And I think what Penguin should have done is just put a list of new titles on the back. But this was at a time when they could sell anything that they printed. There was such a demand for books that anything that Penguin printed virtually sold out, because there just wasn't enough sort of books to go round, really, Right, so let's put these into a few delicate piles. I think 3 will be okay. And we'll give these a little brushing down. Lovely. Okay, so 331 when William came. I said with the pre-war ones, it's basically up to number 500. Once you get past 500, they become much, much easier to get hold of, and the better quality books, because basically that's around the time that wartime ended and things went back to normal. It's got a period reviewing, which I'll leave in there. Russian short stories. Nice one from H.G. Wells. Fishmonger's Fiddle. I've got this one in an Egyptian edition as well, which is quite scarce. Oh, the paper's so thin. There we are. We're okay. We're okay. Right, there's a couple of backed up. Jumping Jenny, that's with a plain green back. Famous Trials 1, First of the big series, went to about 12, I think. True crime, that is. High Rising, Angela Thurgle. This is a beaten up one. I'm sure this one's on my list of ones to upgrade because it is particularly bad. Yeah. Bit of a torn, well, not torn, but a bit of a rough old copy. Orphan Island. £3.99, £3 rather. Penguin first, it says. That would have been a good price today for one like this. It'd probably go for about a tenner at a minimum, really. There we are. It's quite a fun one. Timothy Shy. So Penguin would often do a picture of the author with a little potted biography. So Timothy Shy, the author, that's him there, sent a picture of him when he was very, very young instead. Just for a bit of fun. And Penguin printed it. Farewell Victoria. T.H. White, another great one. Nice copy of that by the look of it. Yeah, lovely. Another one by H.G. Wells, War in the Air. Also lovely. So I think we'll get these brushed off now. Quite a bit's come off those. They're looking a lot better. Obviously, it's just the top edges that are really, really bad. The other ones aren't too much of a concern, but they still warrant a little bit of dusting. Sometimes books are stored in funny places and or upside down. How dare they? Lovely. This is quite a nice little trio. Oil paint and grease paint. Laura Knights. This is like a 3-parter. I've seen this sell, believe it or not, for as much as £75 for the set of all 3. And I remember picking my set up for like a £5 for the 3. So I don't know what's happened there, but there was the actual artist, Laura Knight, I think has had a recent sort of retrospect of her career, because she was almost unknown for a long, long time, and that's revived the prices of these 3. So, well, there you go. But worth picking up any odd volumes of those that you may find, because there's lots of people missing an odd one, things like that, 347. So this is the one that comes next to one of the most expensive penguins that are out there. This is 1943, so we're now heavily into the Blitz. So this is often regarded as the rarest penguin. It's certainly one that sells often for the most money. The most I've seen it go for, I think, was 500 for really for a really top grade copy. This is beautiful, really nice. Biggles book 348. Definitely one to pick up. I only ever had the one printing in penguin, so it's a rarity. Also scarce, another crossword book. This has had a few crosswords done, but I'm not going to leave them. I'm not going to go through and rub all of those out. Life's too short. Silk. Another crime one. This one not bagged up. What's that there? Looks like that's got a folded over corner and a bit of a rip in the page. It's alright. Don't mind, because all of these are so rare. Anyone would have them in any shape, including me. So I'm not going to be looking to upgrade this or anything like that. I'm just happy to own a copy. Couple of little turned over corners. And lots of these only ever had the one printing, so they are consequently very rare until after the war. So they are very scarce in these early editions. Modern one-act plays. Move this pile a bit closer. Here we are. So we've got a couple more. So we've got a couple more in bags here. Najee Marsh, Artists in Crime. So this one's been cleaned up and bagged. It looks very nice. It's an expensive one. This one's probably more expensive. Murder of My Patient. And then this one isn't bagged, but it's a rarity. Nursing Home Murder. Let's delicately look through this. And when I say these are rare, I mean sort of like they're like £250 a book rare. Just, obscene money really. And these are the most, amongst the most expensive books in my collection. But they're ones that I got, when they were like £10 to £15 each, rather than adding another zero. And I've seen literally crazy prices on some of these. It's horrific, but it's a reflection of just how rare they truly are. So that one is quite delicate, and it needs a bit of a bagging, to be honest. So if any of my books need bagging, it's some of these wartime penguins. That one is all done. This is this one, very thin little volume. Another scarce crossword book. I mean, even this one's like a couple of £100. It's just ridiculous, really. It really is ridiculous. But anyway, let's give those a brushing. Okay, so I've got them into small little piles now. So I can these are so precious. Very gently give these a brush. just don't want to risk putting the shoe brush roughly across the top there. They're just too valuable and fragile. But these have been collected over a lifetime, really, and I wouldn't envy anyone trying to start penguins for the first time, because there's just so many to get and so many hard ones to get. If I've been collecting them for 3 decades and I've not got the set yet, after, when I see them, I buy them pretty much at any price if it's a book that I haven't got. It gives you an idea of just how rare some of them really are, and they only tend to come on the market, sadly, when a penguin collector who's a bit older than me and been collecting all their lives dies, and then you might get a full run come up, but that's few and far between. And increasingly nowadays, runs of vintage penguins, rather than getting sold on, they get donated to like museums or universities. So this one here, the British Infirmary, this had a £10 inside. So I don't really remember paying £10 for this one. But it's a nice little one in the yellow miscellany colours, so maybe I did, I don't know. An Airfighter Scrapbook, Ira Jones, that one's bagged. Quite a nice bright one here, the Green Mirror. Hugh Walpole. Time Will Knit. Fred Urquhart. Slightly warm on that, but it'll do. It's not the end of the world. Dialogue with Death. So around now, the books really don't, they start to fall to bits in your hands if you're not careful, so I'm being ultra careful now. Even more so than earlier, because the books are just so fragile. This is amazingly a puzzle book that got released during the war. How many of these have survived? Was it even usable during the war? I don't know. I mean, I suppose when it was brand new, it would have been alright. But who can tell? Had a little 9 inside. I'm not sure what that was supposed to signify. This one's quite worn, so that's why it's in a bag already. Very, there's nothing to it. Pygmalion. Lindor. That's alright. Another rarity. This one should be in a bag, really. The second time's crossword puzzle book. I promised to get around to it. As I said, these early penguins are going to be the first sort of thing I properly bag up, simply because of the value of them these days. They're just not going down, let's put it that way, This is a beautiful crime one. Anthony Berkeley, Silk Stocking Murders. Gorgeous. And pretty nice condition as well. A couple of bent over corners there and a little bit of pencil inside, so we'll get these corners first of all. It's just a couple bent over. All 3 by the look of it. There's a tiny remnant of a dealer's price of some sort in there, but it's not visible, and I can't read what it said. think it might have said something about £9 possibly, but someone got that for £9. They did very well. I can't remember what I paid for that one. Can't even remember where I got it. This one's got a few bent over covers, and it says it's got a little £2 inside. I think this is one I've had quite a long time. I'm not sure if it's on my list to upgrade, but I'll add it to my upgrade list when I edit this. Because it's not an expensive one, thankfully. At least I don't think it's an expensive one. The reason this is, it's been miscut. So yeah, it's one that needs a better copy of, I think. So let's give those a brush down now. I think we can get away with 3 piles for them. That was a good brush there, I think. Some of them, the dirt is just too ingrained. And the only way to get it better would be to sort of sand it down and or take ages with a rubber, which I have done for some books in the past, but not really paperbacks. I've done it for hardbacks. So let's get this last lot looked at. So Do Arise, this is a nice copy. It's got some pencil inside. A big 90. That's quite unattractive, isn't it? And what is otherwise a rather stonking copy of that one. Very, very nice. There we go. This one's on my list to upgrade already. I've been looking for another copy for literally years and still not come across one. I've had it as a saved search on eBay and they just don't turn up. It would have been far, far easier with some of the books I'm missing to find the original hardback first editions rather than the Penguin paperback first. Which I know is silly, but that's how an idea of just how rare some of these ones are. But yeah, it is already on my list of ones to upgrade, because it is, as you can see, pretty much fallen to bits. That one, it's there, but it's in rather a state. Got a little July 81 in the bottom. You do sometimes see that on older books, maybe in the last time the person read it, for example. Big piece out the back cover on this one. And the front cover, to be honest, it's quite a worn one, that. One of my most worn travel ones. Life of Nelson. Okay. Profiles. This is the selected from the New Yorker magazine in the States. This is this one turns up. It's not as rare as, you know, crime books go, but a particularly nice one like that I would still expect to get about £50 for. These next two are very, very expensive books, and I would expect them to go in nice condition for around £250 each, and these are pretty darn nice copies. So that one and that one as well, I would expect to sell for about £250 or more. I would hesitate, I guess, to say that was unread, personally. This is 500 quid there. That's ridiculous. Prices of these penguins now is just beyond it. First ever Penguin edition of Orlando, an absolute classic. I've got the American Penguin first as well. Great book. Nice in that condition. Meet yourself as you really are. Prince Leopold. May 1942. And the last one is also bagged up, but it was the very earliest wartime penguin that I ever got. As General Goes Too Far. Incredibly rare. I think I've only ever seen this on a dealer's catalogue once in all my years of collecting, but I managed to get it off a penguin in a penguin bookshop, a dedicated penguin bookshop, when I first started collecting back in the 80s, and I paid £20 for it, which was a fortune back then. But I knew it was rare, and nowadays I wouldn't pay anything less than 300 on that. But back then, £20 was a lot of money for a book. It was the dearest penguin I'd ever bought at the time, but I'm glad I did. I know at the same time I bought a Forces Book Club title off him as well for £5. I've seen them regularly sell for 100 or more these days for a Forces Book Club. Anyway, as I clean these last few off, I hope you have enjoyed looking through some of my most expensive, valuable penguins. They didn't all need a lot of work, but some of them did. And as you see, I'm treating them with kid gloves just because of their value. But if you have enjoyed today's video, do please give it that thumbs up. And obviously, if you've not already, please subscribe to the channel and spread these videos with your friends. A lot of the best recommendations are from word of mouth. Now next week I'm planning on doing the first part of my miscellaneous American paperbacks, of which I got quite a bit. So something completely different to these, but hopefully equally as fascinating. So I shall see you in a week's time for those. But until then, thank you very much for watching today, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye.